say, open work session, reference to the personnel manual. Mr. Kramer, I think we'll have to try to clear the hallway there if we
Yes,
can
sir.
possibly do that.
Oh, wait. He can't close it.
Oh, can't close.
No.
He can't close the door. I think that's just the line to get on the elevator.
Probably. If council members would take a look, something I thought I might try to do to add some structure. I know that Bob and Michelle and Wayne are going to join us here in two. You can join us now if you'd like. Council, I know will have questions regarding the manual. I had taken upon myself to sort of put in chronological order the questions that came in online, and to maybe see, maybe for a starter tonight, since there are questions that the employees had, to see how they were maybe addressed, to ask you,
Well, that may be part of, what we need to do is wait till all that comes in. We're still open till the 17th of April before we get all the inquiries in. And at that point in time, Michelle is going to go ahead and list every question with an answer for those.
Oh, okay.
But
Of all the questions that came in from all
of
the
all the
individuals.
questions that came in on the replies, and you all have gotten a copy of every reply. If you all personally have any questions, that's kind of what we're here to discuss, because like I say, it's still an open matter right now, and I don't know, we may be just being redundancy here if we keep going over things.
That would be fine.
Okay.
That'd be fine. Well, you're thinking along the same path. That's great.
Can we dispel some rumors?
Sure, love to.
Let's start there.
Probably the best.
Things I've read or had questions about. Some quick ones. Is there any benefit changes to current employees?
No,
None whatsoever?
no,
None?
no.
Okay.
The only benefit change to current employees is for the exempt comp time,
That's
for the exempt.
the exempt,
And
okay.
we are looking at the new Fair Labor Standards Act provisions
Mm-hmm.
that they are introducing in approximately 2016 and implementing them early. There's approximately 30 employees affected by that,
Mm-hmm.
mainly of upper management.
Well, I think that's the biggie, we've had a lot of people, I've had a lot of people call me and, they contact me emails and even contact me in person at the store. And, I say, well, it's my understanding there is no changes to, and especially the hourly employees.
No.
In the benefits. Now, new hires is gonna be a different story. There'll be some changes there, but as far as the current employees, there is no changes. correct?
No changes.
Okay, thank you.
No changes, no change in regard to what specifically, Joe?
Benefits.
Benefits?
Yeah, benefits. Health benefits. Health
For current
benefits.
employees,
And,
Same open enrollments, same,
Same
as it's- yeah,
same
there's
with
no change.
vacation and same with
Yeah, yeah.
sick days?
yes.
No changes?
Yes.
For current employees?
And
Okay.
if they thought there were, through the various meetings, we have clarified and we have noted and took notes to be able to bring you back any modifications to make that clear that we had no intention to change any current benefits.
I want to thank you for going out and meeting with the employees. That was a good idea to get out there and touch base with them one-on-one or in a group or whatever. That probably should have started before we handed out the book, but anyway, yeah.
But it has proved very beneficial by going out to each group, parks, recreation, we've gone out to roads, we've gone out to solid waste. We met this morning, or yesterday morning with GOB, and here, everybody that works in this building, so if there's any questions and corrections, we've been out to there, so. And that was my fault, again, everybody, I had nothing to do with this policy manual, but when it came here, it was on my desk to move forward, and I was the one that said, let's go ahead and send it out, and then we answer the questions, and probably we should have gone out and talked to everybody and handed the books out then, so I'm taking the heat for that one, but it's going very well. Most people, now that they understand it, feel very comfortable with it. And we're, again, our biggest thing is it was written in 2003, and we're just trying to bring it up to date to 2015.
Well, it didn't coincide with the charter, for one thing, right?
It still recognized the council as the form of government.
Right.
It didn't recognize the executive form of government, so.
So in retrospect, it should have been done in 2006.
Should have been done 2006 at the latest. And I think what I would like to do as executive now is to set this up on every 3 years so that it is gone over.
Well, wasn't there an employees committee that was formed a few years ago? Is that still kind of in the works, or do they meet to basically review the?
they don't, they currently do not meet, and most of them have retired, so
Okay.
that was on the committee.
Would that be
Very few.
advantageous to do that in the future, or?
I think so. I mean,
The more input we have
Yeah,
from the employees.
because-
the
I'm
better
talking
off.
about on, you know, in years to come, you know, maybe a couple times a year to review.
I
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
Actually, several
be up to the
employees made
executive's office to do it.
recommendations that it's reviewed annually,
Right.
and that they put forth recommendations. when
Again,
were out in the
if we do
field.
this regularly from now on, we won't have the problems that we have now, because the Affordable Health Care Act has been one thing that nobody's predicted, and it's all taken such a big change on us, and health benefits are so expensive now. Our retirees' benefits cost us an extra 12.5% this year.
We're looking at $500,000.
So $500,000 is going to go up to the cost to the county just to maintain that. We're not changing it for the people, but we're trying to maintain everything, so.
Yes, make it affordable for them, too. I mean, so,
But if you all have, if council has any questions of any of us, we're more than happy to answer.
Go ahead. I've heard concerns about that, people are concerned that in the future, that the executive's office might unilaterally change benefits. It's been my belief that I've told people that any change in benefits has to be approved by the council. Is that
that's in the
correct?
charter,
That's in-
Article
okay.
6.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That nasty rumor got started by something on the first
clearly
word
in
on
the
the first
charter.
page. It says the council, or the executive formed by unilaterals, but that was actually in the original one, and it was just, it's being reworded so that it's much clearer.
All right.
I don't,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I don't even understand all the benefits, let alone rewrite them, so.
We have a personnel board also. Were they did they weigh in on this, the personnel? board?
Yes, they had several recommendations, certain things over the years that they have dealt with. We've discussed after modification, sending it back to the Personnel Board because some of our members have changed. So, that's.
I'm sorry, you sent it back now?
No, we would like to, once it's modified, but some of the components and the recommendations as far as grievance, appeal, or appraisals, and performance appraisals, so forth, have been recommendations of the Personnel Board.
Have you had any council members involved in any of your meetings with your department heads or along that line?
No?
Are they invited
No.
to the table?
No, it's,
Oh,
you're welcome
that's-
to come to anything
that's
I've got going on,
not-
but it's an executive function, and we just
Right.
went on out to meet them and try to answer their questions.
Yeah, I was under the impression the comment was made that the county council was invited and didn't attend any of the meetings, but we weren't aware of the meetings.
Right, I wasn't aware.
I did try to take, actually, HR members took notes, and I tried to send them out. I hope that everyone is getting
We
my
got all
notes.
the posting.
And everything that,
But
yeah,
I didn't
so,
want, I did not want the employees to think that we were invited to these events
No,
and ignored it.
no,
Hopefully that was not, portrayed by our office
didn't
anyhow,
know.
but we just, you're always welcome to come to anything we're doing, so
Yeah.
we'd love to have you.
Larry?
Yeah, I would have attended, but I didn't know anything about it, and I think I heard about yesterday's after the fact.
we can make sure we get them out. I mean, many employees asked us to come back, so they enjoyed the
Or
meetings.
do you have more meetings?
Not currently scheduled at the moment, but
Did,
we're encouraging them to give our feedback, and then we can go back out and reschedule as we.
we sent your,
Just keep us
modify.
apprised.
Yeah.
we sent you
Yeah,
a
I
letter
can
just
send-
to distribute an open letter to the staff. Has that been sent out yet? Just, I'm assuming that
Honestly,
you've
John,
received it.
I don't know that I've seen it actually, because we've been in budget for so much here,
That's fine.
so.
Just so you're aware, we just sent a letter out to say, per charter, we want to go to you first instead of sending it directly to the department heads, because we don't want to get into that. So that you could in turn send this open letter to all the staff, inviting them to our first meeting in May, so that they could, express whatever concerns they might have with the personnel manual. But we just wanted to have that out there for them to know.
Be glad to.
Only one question I had, and I have questions out of the actual book when we get into it. Someone had made the comment that I thought was an interesting perspective. They had said that, is it possible that in starting to reduce the amount of dependents, et cetera, on new employees, that in the long term, would everyone else's rates eventually go up, simply because there were less people that were now going to be, that the insurance company would have
No, because
money in.
based on our enrollment, there's not a lot of families that are enrolling at certain levels because they're already on a Medicaid. But we also have that on our list for consideration and modification based on our meetings. Other suggestions, and as we have been looking at what's going on with the health insurance. So we plan to bring up some additional suggestions if you
And
don't
actually
want.
following
As far-
some of the new rules that the
Yes.
state's setting down.
Yeah, so, based on the feedback. Yeah.
The plan that we're in a consortium with the Board of Education, with the
Next
city and
question.
the county. It's a very large group. And to put it as simply as you can, the rates are simply a comparison of the premiums collected and the costs paid out. So if the insurance company's paying out more than they're taking in, the rates are going to go up. So when you begin to expand the group, the risk profile, if you take, is highly dependent upon who participates in the group. If you have people who are self-selecting employment in order to obtain health benefits, you may in fact drive your claims, which in fact will drive the premiums for the whole group. So, there's no one-to-one correlation between how many people we would include in our group versus what our premium is going to be. The direct correlation is the health of the group.
Okay. It was a call that came in. I just wanted to share it with you.
And due to the fact that we are in a group with the Board of Ed, do they pay more premium than we do? Are their benefits better than the counties? Is it a one-on-one?
No, we have equivalent benefits because why we're in the consortium is to share administrative fees.
Right.
So the carriers do not want to send out separate packets as regards to administrative fees. They're inside that consortium, there are separate pools. The Board of Ed is larger than ours as far as the number of employees. So their rates will be different as far as per contract. But there is difference in there's difference in shares that we pay and coverage that we offer as far as the level we cover for the employee and how much we pay for the retiree. The biggest difference is not the share, it's that the county pays the same share as the retiree, even though they're in their own contract, their own rate, because they get their own rate in tinier consortiums. It's that we carry our retirees and they don't carry any dependents. We did not put any option to drop dependents, so I don't want that to be in any way interpreted differently, where the city of Salisbury will only cover 50% as the retirees. That's the only major difference in the percentage. We should,
I see.
yes.
And we cover, what, 70?
75
75.
for dependents and 85-15 individual level.
Is the city of Salisbury still part of our consortium?
Yes, sir.
Compared to other counties, when you're talking about the 75-25, what's other local counties cover?
We looked at it last year, and we look at it each year, and they're all visiting the same. They're all different. It's like they have these hierarchical levels. Hey, if you've been here this many years versus, we seem to be the most rich benefit, I believe, but it's based on mainly how long you've been employed will determine how much they'll pay. As for our consortium,
So they have done in the past what we're doing now, as far as we're doing new hires and we're changing things up
they've
for new
looked at
hires.
it, yes.
So
It's
okay.
been very
Right.
recent conversations of
Okay.
all, and I think it's mainly we're trying to visit what options we have. The contract does not renew until September 1st, so we have time to look at our various options. It's not like we have to make an immediate decision on it, and even budget-wise, we are budgeting as if there's no changes. We're just trying to figure out what our options are, the same as other governments.
So compared to other local counties, we're above par as far as the benefits we're
Oh,
offering.
yeah, yes, yes.
Are we, retiree benefits are not covered by this personnel manual change?
No.
Is that correct?
No.
Okay,
But that's
a
part of the
separate-
whole-
Yeah, but, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I got a question about that, too. And- Okay,
Yes.
all right. So you mentioned that you might be revising you're taking comments until the middle of this month, and then you might be revising what was presented to us.
We're going to present, we've started a question and answer, and we're going to get together at the end and put together some we've got excellent feedback out in the field. I'm going to, things that from 2003, we're not out there every day. We don't realize some interpretations of things. So, yeah, of course, we're going to be bringing in, and hopefully for your acceptance, any type of proposed modifications to what you've already received. So I'm not going to redraft anything. It will be a separate document, for that.
And what's the time frame? Because I'm kind of confused about our time frame
Me
about.
too. Because
I guess with your revisions and then our approval, all that kind of stuff. So when do you think that might be given to us then?
we plan to at least pull in initial feedback. We're starting to format it now on the 17th, and then hopefully begin to look at each section in each chapter from there, kind of organize
I
it.
guess our goal would be is that we'll get all of our feedback by the 17th. The first meeting in May, we may or may not be ready. We'll certainly give that to you right away, but if Michelle and the HR staff feels that, all right, this wording in this draft policy should be that, then hopefully by the second meeting, we'll have any corrections that's going to go into that draft. We're not in a hurry. I want to make sure it's well vetted, and, this isn't a rush to try to get it done. It was just to get it off my desk, and let's get it moving. So, I don't honestly see it going into effect until January of next year.
So at this stage, and I understand there are two different documents. The document that I have is a 2003, and that's the most current for the retirement.
There's been some alterations and changes.
There've been some modifications.
Modifications, but nothing.
So any reference, for the most part, would you say that all retirement issues are more so wrapped up in this document as opposed to?
That's 100% correct.
Personnel manual?
Yes, we do not want to duplicate any documents like the pension in the manual, because if that ever does, if you ever look at it, because we have to file that with the IRS.
Right.
We're going to have to do that in 2016. We're starting to do that now. So we refer to that document, but we will not put it in the rules.
So you could almost state, I guess unequivocally, that those that are concerned about retirement benefits or retirees, current retirees even being compromised is just simply not so.
That's not accurate. No, that's
At
not
all?
so. No.
Okay, all right. These are questions that people are getting that I think they want to hear.
Accusations that are being made.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
there, too, not just
Yeah.
questions.
Well,
it's
not so much
accusations.
accusations. I have people who are actually very concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Misunderstanding,
Yeah.
yes.
Any other, Council?
Well, if the last revision was 2003, I don't see the rush either.
I don't know.
Some change of government has happened since then.
Right,
so-
and that can be understood. I do have a question that just came to mind about the Affordable Care Act. Are we paying any fees?
Yes. We're paying.
One says yes, one says no.
Yes, we pay the federal to help them do the exchanges. You'll see it on your pay stubs. You'll see health insurance 1, health insurance 2. That's a federal fee.
No, are we
No
paying any type of fees right now?
And we are paying for 3 years to the federal government directly. That's being placed on all insurances to, I believe what they explained to us, to set up the marketplace. So that's only a 3-year,
Okay,
yes.
so we are paying fees?
Yes, and you'll see it clearly, health insurance too.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any employees would.
On the actual document itself, and going through some of these at the end of the chapter 1 there, there was a reference to, under departmental standard operating procedures, it says certain departments require their own departmental standard operating procedures. Wasn't quite sure what that meant, as far as which departments would we be
Could be
referencing?
law enforcement, corrections. They have internal departmental policies that are specific to their operation. So we exempt those departments so that they can create their own.
Should we reference those departments in here, you think? Sometimes I don't know
We
about
can
the
be more.
minutia of the
yeah,
detail.
Yeah,
but-
we can be, more,
So it does, I don't want to leave it open to just interpretation.
yeah, we can cite,
Yeah.
we can cite those departments that are currently operating under their own
Okay.
procedure.
their own operational policies, but corrections and the sheriff's department are the two big ones.
Are we going to get
Circuit court's
copies?
somewhat different as well.
Are we going to get copies of their policies?
We can ask.
We could certainly,
ask
we could
for-
certainly give them to you. The sheriff's policies are really vetted through the FOP bargaining agreement. Corrections, certainly, we have a lot of input on that. However, there are certain things that are stipulated by the federal government and the state government over which we have no control. So corrections has to operate in a certain manner to meet federal and state requirements. Circuit court has their own internal policies that are in adherence to state judicial oversight. So, you know, to the extent that you'd like to see those, I think we can certainly
I mean,
reduce them.
It would be nice to educate ourselves on that.
I don't see any problem with that at all, Larry.
Mr. Cannon, in addition to what Mr. Strasburg has referred to with the LEOPS, the negotiations, procedures for law enforcement are also heavily influenced by the Law Enforcement's Bill of Rights, which is a state law.
Thank you.
Those things would be nice to know.
Another question I had on chapter 2 at the very beginning about administrative, it states that the county executive and those with delegated authority under this chapter of the personnel manual, and then it says, or as assigned by the county executive, are responsible for the administration of the personnel system. Kind of thought that left things wide open.
It should be referring it back to how it's stated in the charter. So that's basically.
0201 under administration. Because it makes a firm statement that those delegated authority under this personnel manual, but then it kind of shifts a little bit, whereas assigned by the county executive. It's the, I think it's page 10 at the top.
Yeah, it should directly point back to as it's stated in the charter, because he is overall supervision in the charter and would delegate that authority and that oversight. So we can make that clearer. If it's, because some of this is not easy to read or comprehend, or it should direct it back to the charter.
Vague was the term I was thinking.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess we'll be referencing
reference the
something to the charter.
Reference the charter, yes.
Just an easy fix.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, Mr. Baker, have you had a chance to review this? Before I get into all the minutia of, verbiage and et cetera, maybe this is something that we should look to you towards, to make sure that there's nothing that's being amended that could be in direct conflict with the charter.
Yes, that's, in conflict with the charter is not likely, but we're in the process of going through it now.
You are, okay. Yeah, because that would be my concern, that just, and I don't mean deliberately, I just mean just how some things manage to get phrased. Attorneys manage to figure out all types of.
As it stands now, it is in conflict with the charter,
The current manual.
the current manual.
Right, I'm just talking about the
The new one.
line-by-line details that we might be concerned with. I'm just going to keep going here. We'll be done by 8 o'clock if that's okay with everybody. I mean, it's about 7:25 now. Is that okay with the?
Yeah, just keep going with yours. We've got plenty of time.
Anybody wants to come in?
Interject ours.
On the chapter 3, section 0304, there's a mention down at the bottom about the Director of Administration, Director of Human Resources shall recommend such amendments to the county executive who will either approve or deny the amendments to the reclassification plan. Again, would that be with county council consensus?
At that point, it would go directly to Article 6 of the charter, where that has to, their recommendations and approvals, and what we tried to disclose in Chapter 1. We try to keep the manual up to the point it points to the charter. And at that point, the executive would have to refer to the charter and bring it forward for approval. That's very clear for
Yeah,
classification.
and I understand the charter
Yeah.
is the safeguard.
Yes,
And
it's,
we
but
understand
at
that.
that point,
But the way that it's drafted, it almost makes it sound like it would be in
well, we can
contradiction
put a
to the
big,
charter.
no, because it gets to the executive for his recommendation, and then he would have to take it to the council. So we just need to make that clear. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, as outlined in the county
All right.
charter.
I think.
We can put that behind every single sentence.
I know,
if we need to.
and I believe you do say that in
Yeah.
0309, you do
Yeah.
happen to mention that.
Yes.
That the county council shall approve it under classified approvals.
Yes,
You do, but in 304 and 306, you don't.
yeah. So we can
I'm
add
not-
that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
throw me
simple.
out when you're ready.
Yeah.
Chapter 4, under 0403, talking about department heads, initiation, department heads desiring to fill a position. Would that be the executive and department heads desiring to fill a position shall submit requisitions to the,
Actually, I believe it's, that's the department heads.
so,
Fill the positions. That's positions, it would be positions in their department.
and as far as if the executive has a position that's open, I guess this is not the place, I guess this wouldn't be the place for us to state that a job opening requisition needs to be turned into you. I may not know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about. I'm just
yeah,
asking.
yeah. They all come into HR. So that's just the track in which they process it. Yes, they have to put a job opening because we have to check it against the budget, which is approved, and the position approved in the budget.
Okay, would the executive fall into the same?
Well, I think this one is for initiation for department head selections, and they have a right to select their staff in the charter, the department heads. So it goes, it's kind of like a hierarchy in the charter. I
Okay.
hope that's clear.
All right.
So, they wouldn't have to take that to beyond that level once that position's approved in the budget. And us confirming that and approving it in
Should
HR.
this document, though, state that when you're making requirements of department heads, that the executive also, under his hiring capacity, should also be taking the same steps?
For his hiring, I get.
Yeah, for his hires.
Going through the HR department.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to have job openings, then you would go to the HR department for
He's
job
going to
openings.
put in, a personal action notice.
I understand. I'm just wondering, I mean, if we're going to redo it,
Yeah, just do it right, or how it should read,
I
yeah.
wasn't on the
I mean,
committee, so I'm,
Yeah, we appreciate it.
there's
yeah.
also something that on
Right, it's clear.
0411, under competitive process, under vacancy.
Okay.
Page, John.
Shall submit a copy of the
18,
position description
18.
to Department of Human Resources and will
Yeah,
confirm.
the executive or the department head shall submit a copy.
Do you want it okay.
I'm just asking you if it's appropriate. I didn't know if it was an oversight or whether what.
No,
you
this
have
was
is-
actually this was not meant for like appointments, or it was really just meant for I guess, the department heads, the employees to know the process, but,
Well, if the
yeah.
executive has an opening, I mean, the first thing, he would be held to advertise that, I would assume. Just simply for EEO, he would be held to advertising it. And I didn't know if this should reflect it, that the executive, just as the department heads, would submit a copy of a position description to HR. And
I guess it would depend if that was an appointment
All right.
or if it was an actual.
I'm not going to belabor, I'm just going to tell you what it is, and then you
Yeah,
guys can.
Yeah, okay.
Well, let me clarify, are you talking about the appointment of department heads?
No, I'm just talking about, anything that involves, I guess you could include that. A job search is what I'm talking about. If there's a vacancy and there's a job search,
Yeah,
should
that's
not the
under
position
the
description be turned in? I'm not,
I'm just doing this on the fly, but I'm not sure that the executive is bound by the personnel manual in terms of who he or she would search out to appoint as a department head.
well, I wouldn't know
Or
why,
a higher
I wouldn't know why the executive wouldn't, honestly, no matter who it is, I don't know why the executive wouldn't follow the same process that a department head would.
Well,
Department head is already in our acting department head, you may just go ahead and move him to department head.
I'll just ask, again, this is on the fly, but
Sure.
I don't think the governor advertised for his various secretaries.
It's not the same.
He knew,
It's not the
How's
same
it different?
department.
He's an executive.
It's not the same as department. Coming for cabinet members? It's not the same as hiring a department.
We don't have cabinet members.
We don't have cabinet members.
I know, but the
I'm
government-
I'm uncomfortable with binding the executive to personnel policies with regard to who he or she would seek out to fill one of his or her appointed positions. I don't think that's intended by the charter. That's just me.
If you
Not changing
if you have a
terms.
job opening, wouldn't you take that to the HR department and have it made
If
available?
I was the executive and I had a job opening,
It's a job
and I knew
search.
someone who was perfectly suited for the job, I would bring them before council and ask for their appointment.
Still has that privilege, but the process.
No, what I'm.
I'll leave it up to you guys. I'll leave it up to you. I don't
Okay.
think there's a debate about it. I'm just
I
bringing
just
up,
wanted clarification, because what I'm hearing is that there's an inference that the executive would have to go through this advertising process, and I don't think we want to bind an executive in that fashion. That's just me.
Actually, there's not even a requirement, I don't believe, for advertising in any position. There's a procedure for advertising, but I believe the manual allows the option of whether to advertise and to what, if the advertising is done within what kind of a market.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the concern.
let me go to page 22. Under rates of pay, you go down to shift differential. Eligibility on shift differential. Would roads come under any of this, or should roads be brought into this at all? As I'm just asking, I don't know.
No, they
It's
don't.
like in the wintertime or anything, when it calls for any type of shift differential?
That's callback.
Yes.
That's covered by callback.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Shift differentials for people who have a scheduled night shift.
I didn't know if maybe that it, like, in the wintertime, there may be some type of a change.
Yeah, they get callback.
Okay.
There's not a regular scheduled night
Right.
shift on.
And that's what
on
night
roads.
differential
Yeah,
is supposed
yeah.
to cover.
Okay. I wasn't sure how they may do everything. I know the comp time has been an issue with quite a few people.
That's something has been discussed at the departmental meetings, and I think that there's some discussion amongst staff to revisit that, John.
Now, comp time is 1.5, or is comp time equal?
Comp time's straight time.
Straight. Okay. Overtime is 1.5.
Depends.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends. But generally, heretofore, if we had a department head or an employee who was attending this council meeting after hours, and they were supposed to get off at 5 o'clock in the evening, and this council meeting looks like it'll wind up at about 9 o'clock. So they would accrue 4 hours of comp time, and they could use that comp time with their supervisor's approval to take off for 4 hours. I think the thinking is that at a certain level in the organization, your job is pretty much a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job, and you're paid a salary to do that job. As you go further down into the organization, there are other employees who are exempt from overtime, not being paid overtime. Take a fire inspector. We had a fellow from EMS. These folks get called back overnight. We're taking a look at that and saying, well, perhaps we ought to consider comp time for those types of people. But certainly at a level, I think at a department head level or higher, you're paid a salary, and you're paid that salary to do the job pretty much,
Well, the reason,
depending on what it takes to do that job.
the reason I ask is because it says here that non-law enforcement employees may be entitled to compensatory time at the rate of time and a half for all approved hours
Yeah,
worked.
like-
Because they're non-exempt.
Okay, that always confuses me. Okay.
You know, I think that the biggest problem with the comp time, however we solve whatever we do with either not having comp time or having comp time is the way it's saved up and used.
It's allowed to accumulate.
Rolled over.
Right, and, you know, people are using their comp time instead of their sick days or vacation time. And, you know, the payouts that we're having to do with it, when the exits happen, when an employee leaves. So I think that's the problem that we need to,
We're trying to
See.
move, Joe, more towards what's called flex time, where you utilize, again, at a certain level in the organization, if you've worked additional hours or unusual hours, that you get those hours back, but you get those back within a very compressed time frame with your supervisor's approval and without a disruption to the department's operation. Hey, I'll give you an example. My wife's employer uses flex time, and that flex time has to be used within 2 weeks. And if it isn't used within 2 weeks, it goes away. That's a pretty tight
It is.
That's a pretty tight time frame. But what we are trying to avoid is a buildup of a financial liability on the
right,
county
right,
department.
and that's the problem we have. Now, what you keep saying.
But at the same time, being fair to employees.
I've heard you say that at the supervisor's discretion, but most of the time, these are the supervisors, right? So.
Every
so
supervisor
there-
has a supervisor.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
The answer to
You know,
somebody.
Your department heads have, you know, one, and I don't think the county executive needs to be running around keeping track of how many hours comp time. So there has to be some kind of control there, too.
We're trying to manage the buildup of that liability.
That's what needs to be done.
Yeah. And that's the intent of what's in this matter.
When you're referencing the maximum accrual of compensatory time at the 240 and 480 hours,
Those are for non-exempt, so we would be required to pay them by federal law once they've exceeded those. We could not take them.
am I to assume that's is that a maximum in a year's period?
That's a
Period.
maximum, and there's no end date on the Fair Labor Standards Act.
So, and the reason I asked that is because, I mean, to me, I thought that if that were to be a year, I mean, that would be astronomical to begin with. But, so there's no, like, use it or lose it process?
You cannot lose it if you're non-exempt. You're required to pay them overtime.
Even after a year?
Yes, you're required to pay them by the law.
Okay. Anybody else want to come in here? Feel free.
Michelle, in your investigation of, I guess you did, with this comp time, what does other counties do? And maybe
They
other large
vary.
businesses?
Actually, other counties vary. Some do flex time. They don't have comp
Comp
time.
time at all?
Some do, yes, they
Yeah.
vary.
Okay.
So it's just, it's an additional benefit that we have in the 2003.
I know in checking with some of the larger employers, you
They
know,
do, not in the private sector, they do not. It's only, comp time is only for government, clearly in the Fair Labor Standards Act. Compensatory time does
Even
not.
for exempt employees, not for exempt employees.
Well, exempt means you're exempt
Right.
from,
Yeah, okay, so it's not for, it's not
From
in
the
the Fair
whole-
Labor Act for exempt employees.
yes.
It's gratuitous comp.
That means you're exempt from it, yes.
Okay.
John, as far as you've gone right now, I think you've covered a lot of things that I have. I have one other in the recruitment and selection process, Chapter 402. It talks about the Office of Sheriff and Department of Corrections, the establishment of the hiring processes, any changes there too, for law enforcement correctional officers shall be in accordance with the standard operating procedures approved by the department head and the director of human resources. Shouldn't the executive also have some say in That, I know it's standard operating procedures, but the final say should come from the executive and not HR and the department head.
Well, John, that gets back to what we were talking about with regard to certain mandates in both the sheriff's department and
And
in
corrections,
corrections that are
Right.
federal.
Federal mandates, I
and
understand.
state mandates, operational.
But shouldn't the,
operational issues.
this means the executive doesn't even have to be advised of these changes.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, except it doesn't say
Report
that.
to 'em. If you report to him based on that, yes. He would be advised, or she would be advised, or they would. I mean, yeah, so
Because
we
you
just,
say so.
yeah, because.
Because you say so.
Well, that, yeah,
But shouldn't it be in here that,
well, it, yeah,
We can add it.
yeah, we can
I
add
mean,
it.
the
doesn't it
operational,
make sense?
Naturally.
well, the operational changes for the sheriff's department are really vetted in the,
Internally.
Yeah.
in the bargaining agreement,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
that-
They're standard
That's
operating.
not only approved by the executive, it's approved by the council. Corrections is a little bit of a different story, so clarification there would probably.
Yeah,
Clarification.
that's right.
This covers, this employment manual covers the certain people in the sheriff's department, or, you know, as, that aren't covered by the other agreements. It covers state's attorney's office, cover the judicial personnel, I mean, how, or are they under separate,
Yes, they follow a separate, they have separate resolutions for their leave for, in those cases, and they also, it, in the beginning of the manual, it specifically points them to the process they use. Yes.
They follow our processes
It's all in the-
administratively, Mark.
Okay.
But they have,
Mm-hmm.
they have benefits and/or mandates and procedures that are specific to their domain, if you will.
all right, so that's the state's attorney, the judicial.
Judiciary.
Judiciary, okay. And any other, okay.
Not really. Not really. I think those would be the two. Those would be the two.
I thought on page 57, and it's not a, I don't see it as a correction or anything, I just thought it was a curious section, 57, section C, that the personnel manager, the personnel manual was suggesting alternate measures before there was a reduction in force. It's not making any suggestions, it's just a point, just something I wanted to
This
point
whole
out.
section came out of the old manual for this.
I thought it was very odd that it would
Yeah,
even
this
sit-
one, this whole section, I think that maps out to the old,
John,
yeah,
believe Michelle's right. I think
yeah,
that's.
this came out of the old
I
manual.
think that's a straight lift out of the
Yeah.
old manual.
Yeah, prior to the beginning of any reduction in force, alternate person measure should
No,
be
wait,
considered.
that one doesn't.
It's not binding.
It's an odd thing to, I understand,
Yeah,
yeah.
this
I just
one-
thought it was a really odd thing to have in a
Yeah,
personnel
I
manual.
think that's a straight lift out of the old manual.
Except where we
It doesn't
added-
do any harm.
cleaned it up.
No.
Furloughs, we had to add, we added in furloughs because that was not in our own manual. So,
Okay,
and that just wasn't in there.
yeah.
We had to go to Department of Labor to get that defined.
Furloughed for 2 years, didn't we?
Yeah, and that wasn't in our, even defined in our old manual, so we added in the definition.
It's basically a way of telling your employees that you're gonna use every other avenue available to you before you furlough them,
Right.
or RIF them.
Or lay them off. Or rip them. Yep.
Right.
I guess, for skipping around a little bit, I've received a few comments from people about the sick pool, and that wasn't on our little handy-dandy sheet that you mentioned to us. So I guess maybe give you a chance to clarify what's happening with the
Okay.
sick pool,
The sick pool has been huge, there's been confusion. Right now, we have approximately 20,000 hours after this year's donation in that sick pool. It's not really, it's an administrative nightmare. It takes months to get all the donations in, and it's not really working as far as who is able to use it. Because usually if you have something that is long-term, you're out of sick time, so you can't donate, so you end up petitioning. Because of the level of hours in the pool, we discussed in freezing the donations and opening it up, operating it under the same committee and allowing all employees to petition to it until we get to a level, which is estimated around 5 years before it's depleted. Many employees over the years have brought several ideas, such as donating time, which would, to each other if someone had an illness, rather than the pool, which if they really needed it, it seemed like they weren't always getting what they needed. Does that clarify? So we're not eliminating the sick pool. We're depleting the sick pool and operating it under the same committee and same rules, and actually going to attempt to get the committee together to structure some of the rules for giving out this time. And then when we get to the last year, we will evaluate it for whether we want to restart the sick pool or do some other program that works better.
Trying to broaden access to it, Mark.
Yeah.
Because the intent is to cover people who have a catastrophic illness. And the way it's structured right now, that's been somewhat problematic.
Mhm.
So we're trying to really make it more accessible.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, use this tremendous buildup of hours. Put those hours to good use, if you will, as opposed to just building hours. And the people needing the coverage not being able to take advantage of the coverage because they haven't been able to contribute to the sick pool.
Okay.
So we'll come back with a lot of clarification.
All right, yeah, I mean, I'm sure
Yes,
that,
that's
I'm
been
the
a
first
big
person
question.
who's mentioned that to you.
No, I
so,
understand.
okay, yeah,
No,
so-
no, we,
So, yeah, so more clarification, because
Right.
people were contacting me, were under the impression it was over. So
I understand.
that's, okay.
And that's part of the feedback we got when we went around to departments.
Any other questions to the council? I think what I'll do is hold off on any, because I have other stuff, but I don't want to dominate the whole meeting. What I may do is address these and just let you know what my questions are separately.
yeah, we'll
Right.
have this
If to the
complete.
extent that we get council feedback during the same period that we're getting employee feedback, then we can come back with proposed.
Yeah, I think that would be much more productive too.
We can put this in a track changes mode, where if we add to the document, you can actually see where it's, if you want to change it, or add wording, so you can see.
Oh, that would be really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be very good.
For record.
17th after we get all the comments.
Yeah, I mean, I can start doing it with small ones for your recommendations to you, and then you can accept or reject them, or so forth.
Mr. Cannon, I hate to interrupt, but I've had a lot of employees contact me about the council's public hearing, email, phone calls. I know you've sent a letter, but just because I know I get more questions, do you plan on doing a public hearing for the county employees on this manual?
The first meeting in May is when we're going to open up a discussion for employees.
That's what I had told people, but I wanted to be sure that was
Is that
accurate.
meeting going to be held here in this chamber or at the Civic Center?
I was going to hold it here in this chamber.
Do you think we need it at the Civic Center?
I don't know. I mean, hopefully, we've,
I thought I'd put it out in enough time for you
Yeah.
so that the dust could settle, and maybe, with the meetings that you've had, you could answer the questions that needed to be answered.
hopefully we've, got through the initial, what do we want to call it? Not as much fear out there.
They haven't communicated
Yeah.
to us.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I'll review this. I don't want to dominate the whole day, the whole evening. So, any other questions from council members? No. All right. Well, thank you all very much.
Let's schedule another work session.
Yes.
And I'll
At least
have this
one, right?
done.
And to clarify, so we will get, after you make some revisions, we'll get those back, and then the council will have to hold some work sessions, just us going through to figure out what we want to do with it. Is that right, John?
Right.
And then we'll have to hold a legislative session to amend or to approve or reject or whatever. Is that, okay?
Right.
So we've got numerous more chances for work on this, okay?
All right, thank you, Michelle. At this time, the council will be going into a closed session to discuss personnel issues. I'd like to thank everybody for attending.